Free spirits, welcome back to another episode of the Flying Upstream podcast. This April, we are diving into the world of energy and not just as a buzzword, but as something real, something that moves through us, shapes our lives, and has the power to transform us at the deepest levels. And to kick off this powerful month, we are so honored to be joined by someone who truly embodies this work, Christopher Tellez. Christopher is the founder of San Francisco Reiki Center, a Reiki Master, and a licensed clinical social worker with over 2 decades of experience. He's worked with people moving through grief, trauma, serious illness, and life's most challenging transitions. But more than that, he understands how energy healing isn't just about feeling good, it's about real transformation.
And I wholeheartedly agree. And I know this from personal experience because Christopher is my Reiki master. I've been learning from him for almost 2 years now, and he's been absolutely instrumental in my own healing journey. Reiki completely changed my life. It showed me that healing isn't something I have to seek outside of myself. I don't have to rely on other people alone. I have the ability to heal myself, to shift my own energy, and to change the way I move through the world. That realization was huge for me, and it's something I think so many people need to hear. So, today, we're not just going to talk about what Reiki is, we're going deeper into what it actually does, how it changes lives, and what it means to truly step into your own healing. And with this, I welcome you to Flying Upstream, Christopher.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristyn and Lucia. Thank you so much.
Of course, we are so honored. I want to start, because you are a Reiki master, I want to start and immediately just ask the most basic of questions. People hear the word Reiki all over the place, and it's a popular buzzword on the internet. But what is Reiki? What is energy healing? And from your perspective, what is actually happening when someone receives Reiki?
All right, that's a really great question. So, what is Reiki? So, the word Reiki means universal life force energy. Essentially, it's a great white light. And we're already made up of Reiki energy. Um, the practitioner, like myself, and the master teacher, means that I have the ability to enable others to be able to have that great white light flow through them. And then we add this energy into ourselves and our other people. And so when we give Reiki to ourselves and others, essentially, this great white light's flowing through us. We're adding it to the cells, the tissue, the organs, and the energy centers. And so, what this leads to, like you were mentioning, is a transformational process. So, we think of your whole life and all your experiences, your upbringing, everything that goes on in your life, the stresses, um, all the people we're around, social media, the news, everything has a impact on our body, our mind, and our spirit. And what happens is our bodies can go like this, get really tight. And so if we add this light, it helps to create space. And if we can create space, we can step into a different way of experiencing life.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, I know that you work with all kinds of people, Christopher. So, some people just going through everyday stress, all the way to grief, trauma, serious illness. From what you've seen, what does Reiki unlock in people that maybe other healing methods don't?
Mm.
So, kind of taking it one step further from what you just said.
hmm So you're asking, what does Reiki unlock that other modalities don't? Is that the question?
Exactly. Like it, for example,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. So the way that we uh, perceive, explain how Reiki works is when my hands go down on someone's body, the Reiki's flowing through me, and I'm adding it to the client. And the client, we actually say is the healer. Christopher's not the healer. Christopher's a conduit of Reiki, and so the client on an unconscious, subconscious, and conscious level is interacting with the Reiki energy. And so the client essentially is the healer. And so the client on the table uh, is going to be interacting with the Reiki energy. And so the more Reiki the client gets, it would make sense, right? In the beginning, the first time they come in on an unconscious level, and even sometimes conscious level, energetically, the body's like kind of trying to protect itself, which is normal because they're like, what's happening, right? Who's this person? And after a period of time of receiving Reiki over and over and over again, uh, think of just when we're around people that we don't know. At first, we're just kind of like, and then once we realize that it's safe, we go, oh, and then we can start talking. And so that's the same thing that happens when people receive Reiki. So we want people to experience it um, more than once for a period of time, so that the body can start to heal itself, essentially.
That's such a great way to put it. Because I think a lot of times we can, I mean, speaking for myself, we can think that, when we think about energy healing, we can be like, okay, I'm going to try this thing once and, or twice. I'm going to go experiment. And when it doesn't work and nothing changes and, there isn't this transformation that happens because we went one time, then we're like, oh, that doesn't work. It doesn't work. So I love that you share that because there's so much power in that. And also, as you mentioned, mind, body, and soul, there's so much that goes on in there, and the importance of realizing that all parts of ourselves kind of have to be involved in this process. I love that you share that because it can kind of be something that we like know in the back of our heads, but like it isn't at the forefront a lot. So to that point though, when people are like, I'm going to go try this. I'm going to go try this one time. Is there an effect when somebody shows up and they go to that one session, but in reality, their mind is kind of like already believing that this modality doesn't work? How does, like, I guess my question is, how does that impact that session or their ability to heal?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've had clients come in that are kind of skeptical, and they're like, I heard about this, but I'm not really sure. I don't really know what to expect. And I think the way that I want to answer it is like this. Um, you can be skeptical, but you can be open.
Okay.
And if we're in our body enough, we're going to be able to feel something, right? And I would say 90% of my clients, even after the first session, even if they're a little bit skeptical, they're going to say, I feel relaxed. Okay. Now there's about 10%, and this is it could be skeptical, but also you can be someone who's highly critical thinking, highly analytical thinking. You have a hard time getting out of your head. And this means really the person's not in their body and has a hard time being in their body. And I'll be very frank, it will take probably 2 or 3, 4 sessions for the person to really feel anything. It's not that the Reiki is not working, the Reiki is working. What's going on is the client, they're so consumed with their thoughts that there's a disconnect of being in the body. Okay, so it's not about the Reiki is going to work no matter what, even if someone's skeptical or not. And the way that people experience it may feel a little bit different depending on what's going on for them.
That's such a nice way to say it too, because and I think that's true for so many things in life where people will try something once and they kind of give up on it, not realizing that it is working. The roots are taking place. The seed is starting to grow. Just because the plant isn't above the soil where you can see it yet
Mm.
doesn't mean the roots are not growing. And I think that's a really nice takeaway too. I certainly have friends who are skeptical of it and they kind of brush it off. But like you said, I know it's still doing good things for them, even though they may not believe it themselves or be able to see the tangible evidence, especially in a world we live in where we are used to seeing immediate results and we're used to paying a high price to get the prescription drugs or the therapist that you see every week for an hour, whatever that may be, and feeling that instant result. And that takes patience to wait and see the result as it comes with time. Now, I know you've worked in both the clinical world as a social worker and also in the energetic world as the Reiki master. I'm kind of curious to know how you think these two worlds intersect, if at all. Like they're both meant to help people, but in two totally different ways. Is there a place where these work together?
Yes, that's a really, really good question. And I'm going to answer it as yes. I do, it's been my experience um, that talk therapy, psychotherapy, in conjunction with Reiki is incredibly beneficial. The modalities are practiced separately, just to be very clear. Ethically, they need to be practiced separately, but they can be used in conjunction. And so, and I'll explain why I think it's very helpful. So, in in talk therapy, psychotherapy, where the therapist is there to hold space um, for the client to talk about what's going on, right? And sometimes we can get in the loop of just talking and not feeling. And really, a good therapist is going to help the client to really get to a place of holding a safe place to feel what they need to feel, right? In order to heal and or ask a lot of questions so that we can get some clarity and awareness to what's going on. And so, so there's that piece. And the Reiki piece is a somatic, it's a somatic piece. And the somatic piece is that we want to get people in their bodies. And Reiki helps us to get in our body, okay, in a way we're not used to. I kind of say it's like we're adding this white light where then the way that I look at it is it kind of, there's a mirror. After the result is there's kind of this mirror that you look and you have these like aha moments, these epiphanies, these like realizations. That can happen in psychotherapy, and it does, but it takes a lot longer. And I look at Reiki in conjunction as kind of catapulting the healing process. And so the more that we can get in our body and feel our emotions, process what's going on, the more we have clarity and awareness of the kind of person we want to be, the kind of life that we want, um, it makes it so that it's easier to step towards it, right? Most of the time, we just focus on what's wrong, what we
Mm.
don't like, our pain, our suffering, and that's fine. We could talk about it. We could talk about it in therapy. We also clearly talk about it in the intake of Reiki. But it's like, okay, and why don't we step into what do we want? How do I want to feel? How do I want my life to be? How do I want to show up?
I like that. And it makes me think of, when we talk about that white light, does the or based on your experience or the way that you perceive it, is does the brightness of that white light, like, are there shades of light to that white light? You know what I mean? So basically, when somebody is not so in their body and they maybe first start Reiki and they're only focused on their pain and only focused on, everything we don't want, which is what we're really good on focusing on as a society, does that change? Like, does that light become brighter as we go through energy healing modalities like Reiki, for example?
Yes, very much so. Because what we're doing is we're processing and purifying. The white light's a purification. Okay, so we're purifying things that are no longer needed. That's within us, physically, emotionally, mentally, right? And the white light's creating space. Okay, when we have more space, just think about it in general. We go out to the ocean and we stare at the ocean and we create space, we experience space. How do we feel? We feel calm, we feel good, we feel happy, we feel spacious, right? And so that's essentially what's happening in the body, the mind, the spirit. And of course, again, this is consecutive, right? It's not just one session. You need to come in regularly. And what ends up happening a lot of the times is people come for Reiki and then they come take a class, like Kristen mentioned. And then if you come take a class, you can give yourself this white light every day. Every day we can give ourselves Reiki. And then every day we have the opportunity to purify, to transform, to step into the life that we really want.
I'd love to actually take a step back and hear your story about how you discovered Reiki, because this wasn't something that you were taught as a child that you grew up with. You sort of found it in your adult life, right? So tell us
Yeah,
a little bit about how you discovered this
yeah,
and what that was like for you.
yeah. Well, first, I want to say that I there's part of me that's like, gosh, I really wish I had Reiki when I was a kid, and I feel so grateful because now I get to teach children and sometimes adolescents, and um, we all grow up with different backgrounds, and uh, I kind of say that that my life was like one of those Lifetime movie specials, right? Um, where there's a lot of suffering, a lot of pain, and a lot of neglect and just terrible stuff around me. And so as an adult, I had accumulated the accolades. I have a master's degree. I had a director position in a nonprofit. Externally, everything was good. And internally, I was really sad and I had a lot of anger. And in 2010, my mom was hit by a car. And I was living in New York at the time and I needed to fly home to San Diego to bury her. And like all of us do when we have any kind of tragedy, we reach out to our dearest friends. And I emailed my dear friend Brian Brunius. And Brian was in India at the time. And he called me and we talked. And I was bawling and crying, as you can imagine. And he said he wanted to send me Reiki. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you, Reiki? What is that? And so he met me where I was at. He said, I'm just going to send you some calming energy to help you through this really challenging time. And so he said, just wait and see what you feel in the next 15 minutes. And indeed, in 15 minutes or so, I literally felt a ball of light go around my whole body and engulf me. And I went from like bawling to feeling a sense of peace and a sense of calmness and some serenity. And honestly, like it didn't take away my deep sadness, but it gave me some relief, in that moment. And it was like, oh wow. And yeah, I eventually buried my mom and went back to New York, got really sick. It's very common after we have a lot of grief that we end up getting sick. And as I was coming out of being sick, I called Brian, who is back in New York now, and I was like, I need some of that Reiki stuff. I thought it was like mantras. I didn't understand what Reiki was. And he just very gently said, Christopher, why don't you come and take a Reiki class? And honestly, I'll go back to the beginning where you were talking about, I wanted the quick fix. I wanted Brian to fix me. I wanted the pill to make me better, to make me feel better. And Brian explained, he goes, if you take this class, you can give yourself Reiki every day. And if you do, you will change. That's what he said. He goes, you will change. And honestly, I was skeptical. I was like, you know, I just did it was beyond my conceptual understanding. I just was like, no, that's just not how life is, right? I received this deck of cards. This is my suffering. This is my plot. I mean, I really just was consumed with my suffering. I really did not see a way out of it. I did not. And he just very gently said, why don't you just come, take the class? And I did. Uh, uh, I will say, because I wanted to be like my friend. I wanted to be like Brian, who was calm, who laughed. He was sweet. He was kind. He had a lot of characteristics that I wanted. And so I took my first Reiki class in 2010. I think maybe 3 months after my mom had passed. And it completely changed the trajectory of my life. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why we need friends from all different walks of life, right? Because we
Yeah.
just never know like how somebody else's story and somebody else's journey could positively impact us, just like it did for you. That's amazing. So, does Brian kind of take some of the credit for your success as a Reiki master today?
Well, I mean, I feel very indebted and grateful to Brian Brunius, of New York City Reiki Center. I was his first master candidate, so I'm the first master he initiated. And my training was from 2014 to 2016. And, you know, yeah, I'm not sure if he takes credit. I mean, I know that he's proud of me. I know that, yeah, I know that, I know as a teacher, what I've been taught by him is that if I'm going to commit to teaching, I'm committing to being of service, and I'm committing to being a teacher to my students. And so I know that he had a commitment to teach me. And I had a 2 year master training. It was very intense. It was very long. It's very arduous. And like, he committed to showing up for me, and he committed to teaching me. Um, and I'm forever grateful for that. And he is a role model to show me how to show up for my students.
That's lovely. That's beautiful.
I would agree with that. You definitely show up for your students in a major way. I can attest. So thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Brian, wherever you are. um, so from everything you've said, Christopher, Reiki sounds amazing. It sounds accessible to everybody. They just need to take a class to understand it a bit better, and then they can give it to themselves every day. How would you help somebody who's kind of curious about getting started in this?
Yeah. So I, I always go, the best thing to do is to come in for a Reiki session, and either that's like with me or one of the staff at SF Reiki Center. We also have a community Reiki clinic, which is where we have accessible services at a sliding scale, and we have that once a month. And then also, so that's an opportunity to come and receive and just kind of see how the center is, and like, is this vibe with me? And then the other way is you can sign up for a 15-minute consultation, and I'll just talk to you about the classes or sessions. I think it's kind of important for the student to feel drawn to working with a teacher, right? And there's many Reiki masters, so I'm one of many, and the students that come and learn with me, they are drawn, right, to work with me. And it doesn't mean that I'm everyone's teacher, right? So, you can schedule a 15-minute consultation, we can talk, and then you can see if I'm the right fit for you or not.
That's amazing. And I love that you that you share that part of it because, in this society, I feel like a lot of us are kind of bound to the idea that like you get what you get. I love that you're like, let's see if we're a good fit. Let's see if I'm your teacher. Because it is so important to, go where we're drawn and go where we feel like we're going to receive what we're seeking out to receive. So I really appreciate that. And I know that as we're wrapping things up here, it's been absolutely amazing to talk to you and have you on. I'm so grateful. I feel like I've learned so much today. I feel like I've learned so much, so I'm really grateful. But I want to ask one last question: is you know when Reiki as a practice turns into something bigger, like you've described, when it's something that you can give to yourself and basically, create this space that you mentioned, I could literally visualize it. If we zoom out for a moment and if we look at the world right now and all of the uncertainty that we're all feeling and all of the chaos that we see in just every day, whenever we prop open our phones or turn on our TVs, what role do you feel like energy healing, such as Reiki, plays in this bigger picture as to where we're headed as a society?
Yeah. So I think that's a really great question. Um, we think of, well, what is our role, right? What's our individual role in contributing to the collective consciousness, right? And so we're like, okay, well, we have over here, we have a consciousness of hate, of what are some of the other words that could come to my mind? Competition, things that are, over here,
Yeah.
and discrimination, inequality, othering in some way, shape, or form. And then we have over here, we have energy of being inclusive, of being kind, of being honest, of being compassionate, and compassionate and loving to me, and compassionate and loving to you. And so, universal life force energy, great white light, purifying energy. In my experience, before I was doing Reiki, um, I was just a very different guy, right? I was more of a man that was machismo, which was puffy, that was aggressive, that was like, come on, I'm ready for it, which is over here, right?
Mhm.
And I started to do this, and I started to have that veneer kind of fall away very slowly, very slowly. It wasn't overnight. And so, like, I'm at a place now where I have a lot more love and compassion for myself and other people. And it's been my experience watching countless students go through the same process, right? And like, we can either be part of the collective consciousness that's striving towards love and kindness for one another, or we can be part of the collective consciousness that's contributing to hate and to othering. And the reality is, we have a choice. We get to choose that. Now, Reiki, I believe it's a spiritual practice. It brings forth spiritual transformation. But there are many, many, many modalities that do just the same, you know. And I do believe I have an individual contribution to the collective consciousness. I believe that to be true. And it's been my experience. Like, what I can do is like, what can I do today to be part of the collective consciousness that I'd like to see, right? Which is loving and kind and inclusive. And that's what I teach to my students.
I so appreciate that, Christopher. Not only was that so beautiful,
That's
but it's
beautiful.
important to remember why we do things, right? Why is it important for anything we do any day, right? Someone holds a door for me, I said thank you. Why is that important, right? Because as you said, these little things really do add to the collective consciousness of our whole planet, right? Not just only our individual communities, like we're in San Francisco and here, or even our Reiki community, but the whole planet. And I think that's so nice and just so important to keep in mind as we go through these, that there are reasons we do things, right? We do it for ourselves, we do it for others, and these little, seemingly little actions really do add up and make the world a better place. So I thank you for that. And Christopher, I don't think I can fully express, by the way, how grateful I am to you, not just for being here today, but for everything that you have taught me. Reiki has been such a huge part of my own journey, and I know there are people listening right now who are ready for this work, even if they don't realize it just yet.
Yeah, I too am grateful. I get to hear about how wonderful you are from Kristen all of the time. And I am grateful for the collective work that you're doing, for not just the work that you do individually, for the work that you do with your students, because one person at a time and one class at a time and one 15-minute call at a time, it really does make a difference. So thank you. Um,
Thank you for
and
having
for
me.
Of course, of course. And for me, this wasn't just, an interview. This was not only meeting someone that's so special to Kristen, but also being able to understand a little bit more about how healing works and how deep it can really go, how much power we really have within ourselves. And I'm really grateful that we were able to do that here today with you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And to all our free spirits out there, if this conversation spoke to you, I encourage you. I encourage you to explore Reiki, whether that's with Christopher at San Francisco Reiki Center or somewhere else that resonates with you, because the truth is, you have the ability to heal yourself, to shift your own energy, and to break through whatever is holding you back. Thank you for listening. And as always, keep questioning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep flying upstream. We'll see you next time.